Welcome everyone. If you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, welcome to the show. I always like whenever y'all are here and get to be part of the conversation. So definitely jump in the comments, say hi, let us know where you're watching from, what you're doing right now, and then if you have any questions for Kelly or myself while we're going through this, just drop them in the comments. I'll be checking that. And if you're watching the replay, still throw that in the comments. We can go back and answer those. Um, but yeah, Kelly, I guess we'll get started
All right.
as I take a very loud gulp of my
I
like
didn't hear it, so you're good.
room temperature coffee. I think I've dialed in the microphone good enough now that I don't get like the mouth noises.
I didn't hear
Um,
any mouth noises.
Perfect. Okay. So the what is that? That's not mesothelioma. That's an infomercial thing of like I don't know. I don't remember what that one's called, but like the people that are just like
Oh, don't
their
like the
stomach.
noise. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
we're good.
y'all are safe today. We're good.
One more
We're
day.
good. One more day. Next week, I don't know. I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you.
we'll
It
see.
might just be all mouth noises. Uh, but Kelly, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here. Excited
Yeah,
to chat again. I know that we've met in person, which is always fun because like not all of my guests I've been able to like meet face to face, and it's
yeah.
always been like 2D or we're meeting right now. But yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm really excited about this topic too. I think this is something. Whenever we met, did we meet at this last hybrid in 2024?
I was trying to think of where it was because you meet so many people, and it feels like we're all in the same groups, but like
Yeah.
which one was it? But I'm pretty sure it was last hybrid.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too, because I was trying to picture the room,
the room.
because that's
Yeah,
where like visual aids
yeah,
is what helps me
yeah.
like narrow down where I meet people. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure we were like in Layli Amadi's class
Okay, yeah, that could
and
be
in
it.
that little cabin.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, whenever we started talking about disabilities in the wedding industry and how that's just like a very overlooked part of the industry,
Mhm.
I was like, oh yeah, 100%. Like that is not even something that I had on my long list of
Right.
topics to eventually get to on this podcast. So I'm
Mhm.
really excited to chat about that. And before we do, I wanted to get a little background about you, where you're based, and what you do. Could you share that with the listeners?
Sure. Yeah. I am a portrait and wedding photographer. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan area. So it's like 10 degrees right now, which I can't wait. I'm going back to hybrid next week in California. So really counting down the days
Oh,
for that.
it's gonna be nice. It has been like it has not been 10 degrees here in Texas, but it has been pretty cold and
Yeah.
rainy. And yeah, sunny San Diego sounds amazing right
Are you
now.
going this year?
I am, yeah.
Oh, good. Awesome. So we'll see you again.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I have two daughters. One is 14 and then one is 9. My 9-year old has multiple disabilities. So that's kind of where the disability entered into my life. Um, and then I naturally became an advocate just by being a mother to someone that has disabilities.
Yeah.
And then a couple years, I started integrating that into my business just because I saw the need was there. So kind of pulled some personal life into business and found that, well, it was really, really needed. So it kind of just made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that really does make sense. And especially
Hmm.
like pulling personal life into business. I feel like a lot of people that like start movements or start change in an industry, it usually comes from like this is my personal life. This
Hmm.
is what I live here
Yep.
and I want to bring everyone in and like make this a little like more well known. And I know that and we'll get into this of just
Hmm.
like how some of the listeners might be feeling right now is just like I don't even know like how do I integrate
Hmm.
like people with disabilities into like how do I market to them, do I like if I've never photographed anyone with a disability, like how do I do that?
Hmm.
And I don't know, I just love that you were just like this is something in my personal life and something that I
Hmm.
see that is lacking in the wedding industry itself,
Mhm.
I can be the one, instead of just being like, man, I wish that people would just like
Mhm.
photograph more people with disabilities, or that publications would publish a bride in a wheelchair or something, rather than just the same old kind of couples.
Yeah. Well, and to be completely honest, before I had my daughter, I had no experience myself with people that had any disabilities. So it was new to me too. So I kind of feel like if I can do it, you can do it too. It's just I'm maybe a little bolder in it because I want the wedding industry ready for Gabby.
Yeah,
But she's only 9, but it takes a long time to make a change. So,
it really does.
um, yeah, I mean, and I'm only one person, so the more help, the better. Um, but yeah, it's kind of just turned into almost a whole second business for me, where I'm doing my first business, making my income, but that's kind of paying for this other business, or the passion of mine. So it's kind of just it's turned into a lot, which I love, especially when it's your passion, and for your child too. It really drives it and motivates
Yeah.
you. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that too. And can you give us a little like kind of, I know we talked about how like uh you kind of took your personal experience and then
Mhm.
started sharing that and moving that into the wedding industry. How did that begin? What did that look like? What were like the early steps of all that process?
Yeah, so probably 2 years ago, I don't know. Time kind of is just a blur, so it's hard to.
Seriously.
I don't know. I don't know how my oldest is
Sometime in
14.
the 2020s.
Yeah, that's for real. I kind of did some research, seeing what was out there for people with disabilities in the wedding industry, seeing like what hashtags there were, what like blogs I could pull up, things like that. And there was really nothing. There was maybe a few articles like on the Knot that were kind of poorly done from 15 years ago, or
Mhm.
just things like that. There were no hashtags, hardly anything on Pinterest. And if there were, they were just kind of, not great because they're just so sparse, and there's maybe one or two here or there, but there's so many people that are disabled and with so many different disabilities that I kind of thought to myself, how are these people going to plan their weddings if they can't envision what they'll look like in their weddings? And that's kind of what started me on that path. So I started just doing all of my styled shoots that I would regularly do, and just decided I was only going to do them with models that have disabilities. Um, and so that's just kind of where I started. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. Um, I
Yeah.
think I do, I don't even know, with hybrid, and then directly from hybrid, I'm flying to Florida to do another conference. And within that time, we're doing 4 shoots with tons of models coming from all over, just to create tons of content, because that's a huge thing that I think is lacking, is content that with the representation for these different disabilities and differences.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said earlier, of just like before your daughter was born, you were also like
Yeah.
where most of the listeners are, just like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I didn't think about this. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I don't see people with disabilities
Right.
in the wedding industry. I don't see blogs of like, hey, if you're in a wheelchair, these are some great gowns that you can have that aren't gonna like, they're not super long. They're not gonna get caught in the wheel. You're not gonna run over them or anything. And this is
Mhm.
gonna like, it's gonna fit well to where you can sit down,
Mhm.
and or even people who maybe you can't stand for very long, and it's like, these are some gowns that you can sit down.
Right.
This is because so many of my brides are just like, well, I'm not going to be sitting for the rest of the night because I can't in this dress. And I'm
It's
like,
so true.
yeah, no, I get it. But
Mhm.
like having that lack of education out there, lack of
Mhm.
resources, because you think about those couples that are just like, okay, we're excited, we're engaged, we're
Mhm.
planning the wedding, and all of these photos and all of these ideas are great for everyone else, but like this isn't going to work because of this, or this
Mhm.
thing that I'm looking at won't be accessible or whatever. And it's just like being able to see that void and be like, okay, I'm gonna not only just if I book someone who does have a disability, then I'll like blog about it and put it on Pinterest, but like
Hmm.
actively, like you were saying, like all of your styled shoots that you were doing, just I'm going to actively work on being more inclusive in those shoots.
Yeah.
So
And I had lunch with a photographer who was a speaker at a conference, and she was pretty well known. And she told me that she had a groomsman in a wheelchair, and when she started to pose the group, she just had no idea what to do. And I just kind of felt like, wow, I was really kind of taken aback by that and was surprised because, she was really well known, really respected, really high up in her career. And I was just surprised that you would not know what to do with that because it's basically just someone seated.
right.
So I think the wheelchair was just scary to someone, maybe because they just didn't know they haven't seen that much before, or they haven't had any experience with that. So I guess almost like desensitizing people to it a little bit, getting them used to it a little more, seeing it more, and not being such an outlier or um, so different in the wedding industry because really so many people use wheelchairs, so many people use medical devices and assistive devices in their daily lives. um, so it's nothing that we should really be that surprised by.
Right. Yeah. And for those of us who like have that privilege of like never having to have been in a
Mhm.
wheelchair or
Yeah,
had any sort of like medical assistance,
right,
um, it's like, oh yeah, I haven't been around that.
right.
And it's almost like that feeling of like, oh, okay, like what have I been doing that I
Hmm.
have not even like brought anyone into my circle.
Hmm.
That's like we have nephews with Down syndrome and
Hmm.
autism, and talking to other people who just like not been around that,
Hmm.
they're just like, oh, I don't really know how to talk to a kid with Down syndrome, like you talk to any
Just
other
talk to
kid,
them. Yeah, just talk to
and yeah, you just talk to
them.
him, and like I think that is one of the biggest things. Like you were saying, like she was so just like I don't know what to do with someone in a wheelchair, and it's like
Yep.
they are sitting. It's
Hmm.
like you have someone sitting. Just pose them like it's someone sitting,
Yeah,
and like I think we get into our heads too much of
right.
like I don't really know what to do. If I put them here, is it going to be like too in front or what? Or if would
Hmm.
it look weird on the end? And like I don't know. And like you get in your head a little bit too much. So I'm
Hmm.
glad that you're like out there and sharing more and just being like, yeah, you can just post them like they're seated, and
Right.
it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, it is totally okay. And just what I found, I did a lot of research for my class that I'm teaching at hybrid, and I asked because I wanted it not to be coming from me because I don't live it and I don't experience all of those situations. So I kind of wanted this to be the vessel and the person that connected the two groups together. So I asked a lot of questions to these different groups, not just people that are wheelchair users, but also people that are deaf, people that have limb differences, all different kind of groups that I could think of. But again, I don't know everything about disability. I just have a heart for it, which is a good start, right? So um, and a lot of them, most of them said they just want to be treated like a human. They just want to be included. They don't want to be not talked to because people don't know how to talk to them. They don't want to be excluded because people don't know what to do with them. And that's kind of along the same lines as life with my daughter. Like when we're at the grocery store, we can hear people shushing or talking and telling their kids, "No, don't look at her, don't talk to her," because my daughter has limb differences. So her arms are both shorter than a typical length. And we're like, just tell your kids to come say hi. Like we don't want you telling your kids to not talk to her, or not because they think it's rude, but really you're teaching your child to exclude her.
Yeah.
And
Like, oh no, she's an outcast. We
right,
don't talk to her, don't look at her, let's move this other way. And it's like
right.
not even thinking about her as a person
Hmm.
and how that would feel if everyone just is just like, oh, and then turns and
Right.
they completely avoids you all the time.
Yeah, just gather a little bit of bravery and come say hi and ask her a question. Even ask her like about her arms or her. My daughter's also deaf, so ask her about her cochlear implant or something. Like she would love to talk about it, and so would we. And making her feel special and known or seen. It's those things go a long way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think like that is the heart of so many different things. So many like different ways of including people and being more
Mhm.
inclusive in just like in general.
Yeah.
Uh, but like that's the heart of it is the, everyone wants to be seen. Just
Right.
allow them to be seen. Be the person that sees them.
Hmm.
And I also like I have pretty. It's not as bad now. I'm growing out of it, but I had really bad social anxiety,
Hmm.
like as a kid and
Hmm.
into my 20s, and would just be like, oh well, I can't go talk to that person. What would they think if
Hmm.
you know maybe this is offensive if I say this, and then I would just like stand in the corner and do nothing,
Hmm.
and my wife is the polar opposite
Yeah.
where she is just like, oh hey, you look a little bit different than me, tell me about your story, I would love to hear. And I'm just like, that has been like huge inspiration for me
Hmm.
of just like, yeah, that little bit of bravery, it just takes a little bit. And yeah, maybe
Hmm.
you might catch someone on a bad day where they're like, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about this, thanks, but I don't want to talk, and that is okay.
Yeah. That is
And
totally okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
not everybody will have a good reaction, but that's just kind of life anyways. It doesn't even matter if they have a disability or a difference or anything. That's just people in general. So,
I have seen people with cool t-shirts and I'm like, hey, I like your shirt, and they're just like dead-eyed, straight ahead, focused on what they're doing. I'm
yeah.
like, all right,
Yeah.
good
Totally.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's people are people no matter what their situation is. You'll find ones that want to chat all day that you might didn't mean to talk to that long, and some that want nothing to do with it, and that's okay.
Yeah,
As long as your intent is good, I think most people will see your heart in that.
yeah, I think that's what it is it's your intent.
Mhm.
uh and yeah, I think that's exactly right. For those who are just like, okay, this sounds great, I really want to do this, I want to
Mhm.
be more inclusive to those who have disabilities, how do I do that in like my photography business without, you know, if you have nothing in your portfolio at all,
Mhm.
because just that hasn't happened to come about through, just
Yeah.
a natural, what is it, word of mouth, there it is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like people coming in, like
Mhm.
what are some steps you think would be good for someone to take to start to have that in their portfolio, start to have that be more inclusive in their business?
Yeah. So well, I am kind of like you, where I had a little social anxiety, and this whole situation forces me out of it a little bit. Like my daughter's her oh my gosh, what's the word? I don't know. Her arm doctor. I can't think of the actual technical name, but her
I can
nurse
help you
had.
with that one. I
I
literally,
know. Like,
I'm like,
I
I remembered optometrist earlier
yeah,
today talking
that's a
to
good
someone
one.
about eyes, and I was like, I remember that one.
Yeah,
At least I hope it's optometrist.
yeah. For
Okay,
ophthalmologist, there's two. Yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm like, I don't know a bunch of
No,
doctors, but yes, arm doctor.
arm doctor. I know. I can't think of him right now. But her nurse had limb differences, so I was like, "Hey, you're beautiful. Would you be my model? This is what I'm doing." And she was one of my favorite models. And now she's actually getting married, and I'll do her wedding. So it's kind of funny how it all works out. But
Yeah,
so getting brave and asking people if they'd want to model it, that's one thing. You never know what they're gonna say, but they also might get behind it as well. And then also being willing to like have interpreters and things there if needed. That's something I've started offering if someone needs it. And then I also oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, asking styled shoots, the hosts, to include diverse models, because I've been starting to ask for those, and I think they don't realize people would want that, and they won't include it if they don't know people want it. So if I'm the only one asking, they're going to be like, well, yeah, that's your mission, but no one else wants it.
Yeah.
But if a lot of people are asking for it, they might be like, okay, this makes sense. A lot of people are asking for it. We can start including it. And I have to say, I'm hosting a styled shoot coming up, and my tickets almost sold out the day they went on sale. So I know the content is wanted, and I know it's needed. I think people just need to start asking for it and make it known that it's wanted.
Yeah.
So I think those are some really helpful ways to at least jump in at least.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love the asking for it whenever you're
Mm-hmm.
going to styled shoots, or
Mm-hmm.
like you signed up for a workshop or something that's like over 3 or 4 days, and you're like, oh, we're gonna have multiple style shoots. I would love for that to be diverse,
Mm-hmm.
because not every person who's putting together a styled shoot thinks of that.
Right.
And like, honestly, I also didn't the first styled shoot that I put together, because I was just like, these are model friends that I know,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that they would do this for free. So
Right.
I'm just gonna
Right.
pay them with pizza afterwards.
Exactly.
And like that was my first styled shoot. And then after that, once I started teaching workshops, I was like, oh, like this would be a great time for people to have a more diverse portfolio. If they're like
Mm-hmm.
me, straight white dude in the South, like most of my couples, well, not anymore, but for the first like probably 5, 7 years of my business, were straight white couples,
Yes.
and like that's all that I had in my portfolio, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
that I was really attracting. And like that is great if you're going to workshop or style shoot, to
Mm-hmm.
just even ask like, hey, is there going to be any diversity in the models?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see this,
Right.
uh, and that might spark a little something in uh, the teacher, coordinator, whoever's putting it together. It's like, I hadn't thought about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they will now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like that also takes that little bit of bravery too, of
Yep.
like, what if they say no?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was going to be the same as it was before.
And then they
And
say no. I
they
mean,
say no.
that's the worst that can happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just like if you go over to someone to talk and then they're just like, I don't feel like talking today. That is the worst that could happen.
Right.
Like that's it. We're just back to okay. Well, we're back to our
Mm-hmm.
paths of life. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I know for me, I'm in my head all the time, just like constant
Mm-hmm.
scenarios and just like this and that. And that little bit of bravery takes a lot. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of takes like shutting off those scenarios for a minute and be like, let's just see what happens. I'm
Yep.
going to go in, like you said earlier, go in with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Like even putting together a styled shoot or asking a model to be um, part of your styled shoot,
Mm-hmm.
go to them with good intentions instead of like, hey, I know that you have a disability and I want
Mm-hmm.
to take photos of you.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to like celebrate you. I want
Right.
you to be seen and
Yeah.
part of this.
Yeah. You
And
are beautiful. I would love to photograph you, and you would
mhm.
make this experience so much richer for everyone involved, you know?
Yeah, man, just copy those words right there, Kelly. That's awesome. Yeah, everyone, just write that down. That is the perfect pitch. Mean
Yeah.
it whenever you say it.
Right. You
But
mean
yeah,
it for sure.
that is great. Um, so like, uh, you had mentioned, I think you did like you talked about three different things, and I tried to put a pin in the second one that you said, um, and it went away. But but yeah, I love the intentionality that you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, just being like reaching out to other people,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just being like a safe place to where
Mm-hmm.
people feel safe with you.
Yep.
Do you have any tips on like, is there like wording or verbiage or anything? I know like for um, for like the LGBTQ couples, like it's you don't want to have like just bride and groom on your website because it's
Mhm.
like a clear like, oh, okay, well, you are not thinking of me.
Mhm.
Is there verbiage that we could use on our website or social media or anything like that?
So I also asked this in the questionnaires and the surveying that I did because I feel like it's kind of based on the person, but
Mm-hmm.
also as a community as a whole, you can kind of know what's good and what's not. I mean, there's words that you should definitely not say, and I think we know a lot of those. But like using the word disability, like that's not a bad word. And so that's kind of what I say for the whole group, for people that have disabilities as a whole. I use the word disability or disabilities or disabled. Um, but then when I'm talking like one-on-one with someone or about someone or writing about someone, if they were a model or a client of mine, that's when I start to ask, like, what is their preference? What do they like to be referred as, or their difference referred to as? And a lot of people said just whatever their diagnosis was. If they have a limb difference, if they have autism or MS or whatever it may be. Wheelchair is also an acceptable way to say someone that uses a wheelchair. They can be a wheelchair user. And then just someone's deaf or hard of hearing. That's what it is. So just call them deaf or hard of hearing. So there's so many different things and diagnoses and that you could go on all day, but I think you're pretty safe saying someone has a disability or is disabled, and then just going in down um, smaller once you get to work with an individual and asking them their preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. Just kind of like, yeah, this is like the medical diagnosis. Just say that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got a limb difference. It is limb difference. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
say like, oh yeah, she had one arm that was shorter than the other one. It's just like we can just say limb difference, and
Yep.
it's not offensive. It is
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it is, and yeah, no, I think that's great.
Right.
Um,
And in the end of the day, I mean, they know they have a limb difference, so it's not
right.
like it's obvious. You know what I mean? Like they don't want you to like beat around the bush or dance around the fact because it just makes it awkward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
just just and they know if you like again go on with good intent in your heart and knowing that you're trying your best, if they have a bad reaction, then that's just sometimes going to happen as well. So
Hmm.
you at the end of the day, you only can really do your best. So
Yeah. And again, comes down to intention and like
mhm,
the kindness in your voice and the way that you're expressing
mhm,
it of just like, hey, I want you to be seen. I want to
mhm,
represent you the best way that I can.
mhm.
How would you like me to talk about that?
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Mhm,
Um, for those who are thinking like this sounds great, but like I don't know, kind of like the photographer that you had lunch with that was just like, I don't know how to pose someone in a wheelchair.
mhm,
If someone's thinking like, I don't know, like what do I do, most of my prompts are like, hey, grab each other's hand and run through this field,
mhm.
or like they're they're very like set for people who do not have disabilities at
Yeah.
all. What are some ways that maybe you can even start incorporating I don't know, poses and prompts that
Mhm.
aren't exclusive to certain people?
So if you're talking about for a wedding, I always say photograph them before the wedding. So
Mm,
just like you would for a couple with an engagement session, it's just gold to know your couple beforehand and see how they move, see what their limitations are in relation to their disability. And maybe they hardly have any. I mean, and sometimes even a disability may be visible or invisible. Like if they're if they are deaf, you might not even know that by looking at a photo, but it just might be come down to communication. So maybe you need to figure out how you guys communicate, and if you need a little extra time to relay that communication, or just with your body language being able to communicate well. And that's something that Ashton at Hybrid taught and teaches really well. If you know you met him
Oh
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Um,
Ashton Jean Pierre
yeah, I love
is yeah.
him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so great, so
yeah.
great. I was like, when I saw that he was going to be speaking, I don't know, I think a year or two ago was when
Hmm.
I was first introduced to him, and I was just like, oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Like for those of you listening who don't know who Ashton is, he is deaf
Hmm.
and has a translator, and like was so captivating in his speech and like talking about how to um,
Hmm.
like use your body language like you're just saying of like reading body language and being able to
Hmm.
express things without like saying exactly what you need to do.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
I
took
think
his class
oh
last
nice,
year. Yeah.
nice.
And so you had to work with a model and you could not talk. So it was a little easier for me, I think, than other attendees because I have a child that's deaf.
Right.
But so I would almost try to like communicate with my hands to her, like with sign or something. But she didn't know that because she wasn't deaf. So I wasn't able to. So it was really good experiment, which that could be something that you do with just anyone, a friend or your spouse or whomever, your child, and try to just work with them and show them what you want them to do without words. But that's good for hearing or non-hearing clients too. So
Oh, 100%. I don't know how many times, like, there's a really great place, like, near our downtown here. But there's like three different train tracks
yeah.
that are nearby. And for sure, if we're there
So,
for an hour, there's at least two trains coming past. So
mhm.
whenever those horns are blaring, I'm just like mimicking what
Yep.
I want them to do and like hand gestures and
Yep.
like facial features. And like, I'm just trying to show them what I
Hmm.
want them to do, and it doesn't always land, but you
Right.
know
Right.
it's something that like that is really great
Hmm.
to work on, to where you're
Hmm.
not just like having to tell people or even like show up or pull up a photo of just like,
Yeah.
so this is what I want y'all
Hmm.
to do, but be able to guide them without lining out every single thing.
Yeah. But if it doesn't land too, that's sometimes where that raw emotion and true expression comes out because it can be funny or awkward for a moment, so that makes you laugh. Or
Hmm.
sometimes their interpretation of what you're doing is better than what you were telling him to do. So
Seriously, some of my favorite photos
yeah,
have been where I was like, "That's not what I was asking you to do.
but
This is so
way
much
better.
better."
Yeah, same. Yeah. And so I kind of forget what we were even talking about. I think it was about like poses and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, so but it's working with clients ahead of time is so helpful, especially if they're disabled or if they have a medical device, because if you, especially if you haven't used it before, so you can kind of know what to do with it. Like, especially on a wedding day, if they use a wheelchair, I like to often use a veil because it kind of softens the wheelchair
hmm,
because for a bride at least, because it's kind of a heavy piece of equipment, to add into the photo. I don't like to take things away unless they want them not in the photo. So I always ask their preference on that. I feel like most of the time they want some with their medical equipment and some without. So give them a lot of variety.
yeah,
But quite often their medical device is an extension of themselves. So they still want that as a part of them. And then sometimes people, like for example, if someone's in a power wheelchair, if they're quadriplegic or something, or they don't have much use of their arms or their legs, they can't they can't create the movement in photos like you would with you having a couple run through a field or whatever. So you kind of have to create the movement for them. And so I have some examples. I don't have them right here, but like we have a bride kind of against the wall, and she's sitting there with the flowers, and she looks beautiful, but I wanted some movement added in the photo, so I have my husband in the background just like throwing the veil back and forth, so it's moving nicely behind her, but she didn't have to create that movement, we did.
yeah,
So just getting creative, because I mean, after all, that's what we are, right? We're creatives. We should be able to kind of think outside the box a little bit. And it's kind of fun, but I always try to have a little extra time too. Just sometimes your creativity gets halted on wedding days with your to-do list, and things like that. So
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. The grind of like, okay, we have
yeah,
10 more minutes for this
yeah,
just like shrinks my creativity like
right.
so
Like,
bad where I'm
there
just like,
goes.
okay, I had ideas. Now I have nothing. And now we're short on time.
Right.
And yeah, like being able to just kind of step back and
Hmm.
and let the creativity go,
Hmm.
and just do some things. And
Hmm.
like I the last few years I have just been running with the idea of like even telling my couples like, hey, I want to try this thing. It may not work out,
Yeah.
it may be terrible and you may never see these images,
Hmm.
but I want to try this thing. If it works out, it's going to be really cool. And they're usually like, yeah, go for
Sure.
it. Let's
Hmm.
do this. It's going to be 2 minutes, and
Hmm.
then we'll go on to something else. And a lot of times it works out and it's really cool. And
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, they are never seeing these
Delete.
photos.
Yeah.
These are trash. I'm
Yeah.
deleting them straight from my camera.
Yeah. I always
uh,
tell them too, I'm like, let's try some stuff. If you don't like it, we don't have to use it. Like,
yeah.
it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Unless we're shooting film, then it hurts a little bit. But
Yeah. Hurts the pocketbook more
yeah,
than anything.
right.
Yeah. I just bought a bunch of film and I was like, well, that was
Uh-huh.
that was a lot, but it's gonna last me a few weeks. I
That's good. I love
I'm
film.
definitely still an overshooter with my film, uh,
Same.
but it's great. It's so much fun.
It's so
Yeah. Okay, Kelly, this has been so great. I've loved all of this. Is there any like last steps or last notes that you want to leave for the listeners?
I mean, there's just so much. It's hard to say any last thing.
I have 12 last things to
Yeah,
say.
I have 8 more hours. Really just comes down to treating people, as you'd want to be treated. I mean, it's so cliche to say, but it's true. It's really true. And just treating people with respect, even if they have physical differences. Maybe they're not the model you were envisioning, but that doesn't mean they're not worthy of being the center of a photo shoot, or having beautiful portraits taken, or having their life celebrated too, because they're just as worthy and loved as the next person. So um, I just encourage you to step outside your comfort zone a little bit, and try some new things, even if it's something you've never done before. um, yeah, just that's a big blanket wrap on all of it, I guess.
Yeah, really. I think it does kind of encapsulate everything that you
Mhm.
talked about of just like treat others how you would want to be treated. Like
Mhm.
show up with kindness, show up with true intentions when like talking to people and bringing in models for styled shoots,
Mhm.
and even like at wedding expos, like there have been I have seen vendors that like there's a couple and one of them comes by and has a disability, and that vendor's just kind of like, I'm just gonna not make eye contact because I don't really want them to come over here and
Mhm.
talk to me. And I'm just like staring at them like, make eye contact with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Find me, find me.
yeah, come over here. I want to talk.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like show up
Mhm.
and treat people like people.
Mhm.
Um, and that bravery that you talked about earlier, like take that one brave step.
Yep.
That first time, who knows, it may not work.
Mhm.
It may be one of those that they're just like, yeah, no thanks, that doesn't sound like it for me. And uh and just taking that not as rejection of like,
Mhm.
well, this is terrible, I'm never doing this again, but
Mhm.
just like, okay, well, this one didn't work out.
Yeah,
So
they say the
yeah.
most successful people has been told no so many times.
Yep.
So that's encouragement to me to keep trying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, awesome. Well, Kelly, before we get into like where people can find you,
Mhm.
follow along, learn from you, and all that, there's part of the show that I like to do where we talk about what we're loving this week. It could be
Okay.
literally anything: a book, TV show, movie, new food, whatever. What are you loving this week?
Mhm. Okay, this is probably gonna give me some grief from people, but I'm loving snow days.
Mm,
Yeah, because my kids get to stay home, and then we get to have a random like movie snow day together. So yeah, ours haven't been snow days lately. They've been negative 20-degree wind chill days. It's been so cold, but yeah.
Not as fun to play outside during
No, they don't really
snow
play
days.
outside during that. It's too cold, but we can still like have hot cocoa and popcorn and movie. So yeah, random snow days. I'm gonna go with that.
Nice. We had like a snow day and a half a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, where it dropped to like 28 or something.
Oh my God,
It was nothing.
Uh-huh.
But here we don't have
Yeah,
we don't have the infrastructure. If there's ice on the road, we're like, I don't know. I guess we'll wait till it thaws.
hmm
We don't have snow plows or salt or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had like 2 days where the kids were home, and I put big projector screen up, and we
Yeah.
had like a movie night or movie day and popcorn and hot chocolate and just like
Mhm.
that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I love those every now and then.
Right. Well,
It's
yeah.
just like a whole week of snow days. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
We recently had almost a whole week, and it was day 3, 4, 5 was a little much, but
Yeah,
it's
like,
okay.
okay, we need to get back into a routine now. I
Yeah.
have to work.
Uh-huh.
But no, I love that, and love snow days, and just we get them very infrequently here,
hmm
so it is very very nice whenever we have them.
Yep.
Let's see, I'm loving a show. I know I talked about this for the listeners. I talked about this a few weeks ago, but it was my guests' thing that they were loving. So
Mm.
this one's mine now, and it's season 2. So we were talking about season 1. Season 2 of Severance came out on Apple TV Plus.
Not heard of it.
Such a great show. It's a really interesting plot of like kind of follows these people who they have this chip implanted to where they sever their work self from their like day self.
hmm
So essentially for you, like you walk into work and then the next thing that you know is you walking out of work and you have no memories of what you did for the last 8 hours.
Okay.
But
That's
then your
interesting.
work self has no memories of what's going on outside the building.
Oh, that'd be
And then,
productive.
yeah, super productive. And then, they start asking questions about like, why are we here? What are we doing?
Uh-huh.
What is my outside self like?
Yeah.
And yeah, very interesting. Great score. The music
Uh-huh.
is great. The writing is fantastic. Ben Stiller directs most of the episodes. But yeah, like Adam Scott, John Turturro, Christopher Walken are all in it,
Oh.
and it's
Have you
it's a
seen
it's a great show.
Have you seen the show Silo on Apple Plus?
Yes,
That one's really good
that's
too.
that one is also very good. That one, I think the second season just wrapped up.
Is it out yet?
I think so.
I We have so many subscriptions. I don't remember which ones we have right now. So it's like, do we have that one? I don't know if I can watch it.
Apple is one of those that I'm like, whenever the shows that I'm interested in come out, I'll
We have it.
subscribe and then I'll just drop it
Right.
until it's coming back around.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, second season of Silo is out and finished because I did not know it was the finale, and then it just ended and was like, I was like, oh, is the next one coming out on Friday? No, it is not. We are finished.
Oh,
But Steve Zahn shows up as a character.
okay.
If you know him from like the early 2000s movies and stuff.
I remember the name, but I can't think of his face.
He's
Yeah.
like he was in Daddy Daycare and You've Got Mail. He's got that
Yeah.
voice, like kind of weird kind of dude. But yeah, it was fun. I saw his eyes and heard his voice, and that was it. And I was
You
like,
knew who it was.
Steve Zahn, what? Because he was one of my favorite people. So that was a fun treat in season 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out those. Those
I
are great.
will. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, where can people check out you? Where can they follow your work? Learn from you? Go to conferences that you're speaking at? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my website is Hetler Photography, so it's Hetler. And then my Instagram is at Hetler Photo. I'm going to be a hybrid teaching a breakout class on this very topic, which is like next week, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like a week and a half. So
Yeah.
that will have just happened. For the
Yeah.
listeners, if you're watching this live or the replay before, then definitely come out to hybrid.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I hope you really enjoyed it. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
And then I think I'm going to be hosting a styled shoot here in Michigan in the late summer, fall for people that want to diversify their portfolio a little bit as well with models that have disabilities. So that's a fun thing that they can do as well.
Yeah, that would be a really great time to escape the heat. If you live
Yeah,
in the
it gets
South,
hot here,
it
but
does. Yeah, it
and
does get
humid,
hot. Yeah, yes, yeah.
but not like you're hot. No, not Texas hot.
Not Texas hot, so it's like a little break,
Yeah,
but still warm enough that you can, wear shorts
breathe.
and breathe. Especially now when you're like -10 right now, you're like, I just need heat.
Yeah, you kind of can't breathe when it's that cold either.
No, no. So okay, well, awesome. That sounds really cool. I've been seeing so many people out of like Grand Rapids area as educators recently.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just like, that's really cool. Like that is a place that I've driven through before,
yeah.
in my travels and stuff around. But like I need to go check it out. Like
It's a cool town.
being
We
out in
must
Michigan.
just all be bored in the winter and have time on our hands. So
Must be.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I will have all of that linked in the show notes for everyone. So definitely go give Kelly a follow and say hey and share about this episode. But yeah, Kelly, thanks so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed chatting today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Have a good week.
Thanks, you too. And I'll see you in like a week and a half.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it.
It is coming up very quickly.
Yes.
But yeah, well, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you for the next episode. Bye, y'all. Okay, sweet. We are all good. And then it looks like you're almost, oh, no,